Thank you for staying tuned to Channels Television and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. I am Bukola Koka. First, the headlines. In a surprise move, U.S. forces carry out strikes on Islamic State militants in northwest Nigeria. Federal government declares bandits, kidnappers as terrorists. In his Christmas message to Nigerians, President Tinubu reassures all faiths of protection. Leaders of the Catholic Church, Pope Leo I's Christmas message appeals for an end to all conflicts. Welcome. U.S. President Donald Trump says U.S. forces have carried out what he describes as powerful and deadly strikes against Islamic State militants in northwest Nigeria, accusing the group of targeting and killing Christians in the country. The U.S. Africa Command said the operation was conducted in Sokoto State in coordination with Nigerian authorities, resulting in the deaths of multiple ISIS fighters. The Pentagon released video showing a projectile launched from a warship, while a U.S. defense official said the strikes hit known ISIS camps, though details remain limited. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth thanked the Nigerian government for its cooperation, adding that further action could follow. The strikes mark the first known U.S. military action in Nigeria under President Trump and comes months after he criticized Nigeria over what he calls severe threats facing Christians in the country. Hours after that attack on Friday, the federal government confirmed the airstrikes in northwestern Nigeria, saying they were carried out through structured security cooperation with international partners, including the United States. The confirmation, contained in a statement issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, followed established international practices and bilateral agreements involving intelligence sharing, strategic coordination, and respect for Nigeria's sovereignty. Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tugar, said the operation reflects a strong partnership with the United States and counters claims that President Bola Tinubu is not committed to addressing insurgency.
Nigeria has remained consistent in its approach, which is, like the statement says, to work with all partners that are committed to the fight against terrorism, irrespective of what religion, who the victims are, whether they are Muslims or Christians, and irrespective of what type of terrorism, be it terrorism being carried out in the name of one religion or the other, or indeed even banditry. So this is an ongoing process. We have been working closely with the Americans. This is what we've always been hoping for, to work with the Americans, work with other countries to combat terrorism, to stop the death of innocent Nigerians. So those who thought that there was some foot dragging or, the government wasn't doing enough, it is a clear indication that we are committed and we are prepared to work with all comers.
Okay, so we understand that there was some reconnaissance done before the strikes. Were we also involved in that, and how so?
It's Nigeria that provided the intelligence. I was on the phone yesterday for 19 minutes with Secretary of State Marco Rubio of the United States. We spoke extensively, and we agreed that I was going to speak with President Tinubu, for President Tinubu to give the go-ahead. And I did speak with him, and it was agreed also that the statements that would follow would be statements that will show clearly that it is a strike against terrorism and that it is part of the ongoing joint operations between Nigeria and collaboration between Nigeria and the United States, and that it is not to do with religion, it's to do with protecting Nigerians and innocent lives of either Nigerians or non-Nigerians.
The minister adds that the government remains focused on weakening terrorist networks and disrupting their financing.
This is something that we've been working on for a very long time, not just with the Americans, but with others in almost all our foreign engagements with countries that have any influence over the flow. I'm sure you must have been hearing about the illicit
financial flow.
Financial flow. This is something that has been going on. We discuss it in ECOWAS, we discuss it in the African Union, we discuss it bilaterally with countries such as the United Kingdom, because London is a financial hub. We discuss it with the U.S. because, the dollar is still the international currency or legal tender, if you will, and with China, with everybody at the BRICS. So it's clearly something. It's a no-brainer. This is something that we always discuss. And don't forget that we also have the non-kinetic approach to the fight against terrorism, which has been very effective. We have a safe corridor. Prior to Niger opting out of this multinational joint task force because of the failure of this strategy in the Sahel to stop migration that brought about the coup, we were actually, one of our challenges was how to contain the number of people that were pouring in, surrendering, particularly Boko Haram. But then this change, you saw an upsurge in Boko Haram activities, just like we witnessed this suicide bombing recently. We had, it had become a thing of the past. We're doing so well, which is why it is important for those that are concerned about terrorism to collaborate with countries like Nigeria, and in particular Nigeria, because Nigeria is a leader in the region. And that's how we can be effective. So we have to be sincere. And we are sincere. Nigeria is sincere about its purpose and about its objectives.
And there's more on security that occurred during the week as the federal government announced that any individual or group involved in kidnapping, terrorizing communities, or attacking farmers nationwide will henceforth be officially classified and treated as terrorists. This announcement was made by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, during an end-of-year media briefing in Abuja.
Thank you. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, is leading this end-of-year media briefing to review the performance of the government for the outgoing year.
Work that President Bola...
The government is using the briefing to address some key state-of-the-nation issues and provide policy direction for the incoming year.
Our gross domestic product, that's GDP, grew by 3.98% in the third quarter of 2025, demonstrating resilient and sustained expansion in the non-oil sector. Significantly, headline inflation has now declined for 8 consecutive months to stand at 14.45% in November 2025. The journey of 2025 was one of reinforcing and strengthening the foundations of the Nigerian economy. The mission of 2026 is to raise the edifice of a secure, competitive, and prosperous Nigeria upon that.
He also highlighted that the resolution of the recent Nigerian-U.S. diplomatic spark has strengthened bilateral ties and positioned Nigeria as a more confident global partner.
In 2025, and all of you are aware of this, we navigated a very complex international diplomacy with maturity and also with principle and with dignity that Nigerians are known for. For example, the recent diplomatic spat with the United States has been largely resolved through a firm, respectful engagement culminating in a strengthened partnership between America and Nigeria. Let me say it here, that what has happened, as bad as it was, has also helped to strengthen the kind of collaboration that Nigeria is having with the United States of America, especially in the area of security, making sure that Nigerians live free of this crime and criminal elements.
On security, the minister announced a hardline shift, warning that the era of soft descriptions and impunity is over.
Any armed group that kidnaps our children, that attacks our farmers, that terrorizes our communities, is officially classified and will be dealt with as a terrorist organization, any individual or any group. This is the declaration that Mr. President has made. Now, the era of ambiguous nomenclature is over. If you terrorize our people, whether you are a group or you are an individual, you are a terrorist and you'll be classified as such. There is no any name hiding under this again.
The minister reaffirmed the administration's commitment to protecting national interest while positioning the country for sustainable growth and international relevance. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
Away from politics, and the week took a dramatic twist on Tuesday when the governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, took a swipe at the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, urging him to respect individual political choices ahead of the 2027 general elections. Speaking during a media interaction in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, Governor Makinde made it clear that he would not be backing President Bola Tinubu in 2027, stressing that no one has the authority to impose political allegiance on others.
We'll not talk about people, we'll talk about events. But I'll talk about the real issue. The real issue is that Wike would like to support the president for 2027. That's fine. It is within his right to do that. But also some of us that want to, ensure that democracy survives in Nigeria. We don't drift into a one-party state, and we want to ensure that PDP survives. It should also allow us to do our own thing. That is just the issue between me and Wike. And I confided in a mutual friend. So when I was telling our mutual friend, I said, look, maybe he was talking about an errand that the president never sent him. So let's watch, let's engage him. Let's see if he will back off. But he never did. So after he didn't back off, I said, well, now it's time to confront him. Because I told him from that day that I will never be a part of this. And that is why I will not be supporting the president for 2027. Wike can support him, he's within his right, but also it is within my own right to decide within the political space who I will support or what I will do in 2027.
The National Assembly has passed President Tinubu's 58.47 trillion naira 2026 appropriation bill for second reading, paving the way for legislative scrutiny of the proposed expenditure framework. The bill was approved after extensive debate on both floors of the Senate and House of Representatives.
It's an enthusiastic atmosphere as lawmakers resume with the news of more defections at the upper chamber following a letter read by the President of the Senate.
I have resolved, therefore, to formally today join the All Progressives Congress. The PDP has unresolved issues, divisions at the national, divisions at the state, divisions at the local government, and divisions even at the ward levels.
Two of our great colleagues from the other side of the aisle, distinguished Senator Orwell and distinguished ranking Senator Bainadam Pigi, crossing carpet to join us here in the APC caucus. All those, again, who are trying to insinuate that we're trying to turn Nigeria to a one-party state should please recognize the fact that nobody is joining our party under any form of coercion.
Similarly, in the House of Representatives, 6 River State lawmakers loyal to the FCT minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike, defect to the APC. So far, 9 out of the 11 PDP Rivers lawmakers in the House of Representatives have now joined the APC, leaving 2 behind, the House Majority Leader, Kingsley Chenda, and Representative Kelechi Nwogu.
I will challenge any one of us to show me anywhere in our law that requires that you need to come to the floor of the House for you to move from one political party to the other. There is no law like that, I keep saying.
As for the ceremony you're talking about here, it doesn't have to be in law. Any member who is changing his party has the right to tell the Assembly that he is no longer a member of so-so party, he is moving to another.
The House then settles to the consideration of reports on the 2026 budget presented by President Bola Tinubu days ago to a joint session of the National Assembly. In the Red Chamber, the Senate leader also leads a robust debate on the same bill.
The bill is deemed to have been read the first time by virtue of its being laid before the joint session of the National Assembly on Friday, 19 December 2025. I move that the 2026 Appropriation Bill 2025 be read for a second time.
The lawmakers highlight concerns regarding its implementation.
Our committees on Defense, Army, Navy, Air Force, we have to ensure that they understand that this money being appropriated is meant to ensure prudent procurement and ratio payment to our men and women in uniform who are taking all the risk.
My plea is that this budget should be well implemented, exceeding the implementation of the last year's budget.
The bill is subsequently passed.
Second reading taken. This bill is now committed to the Committee on Appropriation to revert to the Senate in 1 month.
And the National Assembly has also passed a revised 43.6 trillion naira budget for 2024 and 48.3 trillion naira 2025 budget. This follows the consideration and adoption of reports from the Committees on Appropriations from both chambers. The Assembly has now adjourned to resume in 4 weeks. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
In his personal goodwill message to the nation to mark the 2025 Christmas celebration, President Bola Tinubu stated his commitment to doing everything within his power to enshrine religious freedom in Nigeria and to protect peoples of all faiths from violence. Amid concerns about religious intolerance and insecurity, the president said he had engaged with prominent leaders from the 2 major faiths in the country, promising to build on these conversations to strengthen collaboration, prevent conflict, and promote peaceful coexistence. According to the president, quote, beyond the celebration and festivities of the season, Christmas reminds all to reflect on the significance of Jesus Christ's birth and his message of salvation as the Prince of Peace, end quote. He acknowledged that the love of Christ and the message of the gospel has inspired many Christians to care for the vulnerable and less privileged in the society, adding that the season is a reminder that despite daunting challenges, God is with Nigeria. And amid the Yuletide, travelers made their way to several locations to enjoy the festivities, but commuters raised serious concerns about the hike in airfares, the poor condition of the roads, calling on the government to urgently address the situation. While air travelers asked regulators to review the ticket pricing system, most road travelers want government to fix the roads and address the challenge of kidnapping on the highways. Earlier in the week, the Nigeria-U.S. International Airport and several motor parks in Abuja witnessed heavy traffic of passengers traveling to their various destinations.
The Nigeria-U.S. International Airport Abuja is not as busy as expected during festive seasons. At the ticketing points, travelers are trying to validate their tickets and catch their flights to their destination. Some of the travelers we spoke to raised concerns about what they describe as irregular price hikes, accusing airline operators of taking undue advantage of the season.
They are taking a very good advantage of people because of the insecurity that occurs in Nigeria. So it's unfair.
Airfare is not supposed to be an issue that will hinder one to travel to go and see his loved ones and whatever. So it's just unfortunate anyway, yeah.
An all-round flight from Abuja to Asaba, Enugu, Owerri or Port Harcourt costs between 380,000 and 550,000 naira, depending on the airline. Some passengers want the government to urgently intervene and address the situation.
Committees on aviation, they are looking into it to ensure that this kind of thing does not happen. And at the same time, government is also making efforts to ensure that our roads are safe and motorable, because this is as a result of not having competition.
In a similar way, the motor parks in the nation's capital are not as busy as expected. Passengers trickle in, bearing their luggage as they try to make last-minute travels to spend Christmas with their families. Security, bad road conditions, and the hike in transportation fare lead to the concerns of passengers.
The issue we are facing now is the issue of insecurity. We want His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to put things into consideration so that the issue of insecurity along the highway should be overcome.
The chairman of the Jabi Motor Park explains the reasons for the price hike.
Why we increase money, transportation, is because of those that are living in our area there, so that enable them to use it and buy fuel to Abuja. Because at the time, if you base on, a basic transport, whenever you go there, you cannot come back.
The Yuletide holiday presents an opportunity for many to reconnect with friends and families. However, the concerns raised by passengers are impacting travel plans, underscoring the need for the government to consider these concerns.
And news round ends this evening with Pope Leo XVI's message on Christmas, in which he called for an end to global wars, highlighting humanitarian crisis across the world and pleading for sympathy for immigrants worldwide. His first Christmas Day message was also a call for peace, citing sufferings in Gaza, Ukraine, Africa, and in several other countries.
At the Vatican, a Christmas sermon marked by solemn reflection and unusually direct appeal on global suffering. Pope Leo XIV has used his first Christmas celebrations as pontiff to speak forcefully about the plight of Palestinians in Gaza, the Ukraine war, and many other regions in conflict, warning that modern wars are leaving behind what he described as rubble and open wounds across the world. Celebrating Christmas Mass inside St. Peter's Basilica, the first American Pope departed from the purely spiritual tone that traditionally defines the service, addressing humanitarian crisis and the human cost of conflict before thousands of worshippers gathered for the occasion. Reflecting on the Christian story of the birth of Jesus in a stable, Pope Leo said it symbolized the God who chose to live among the vulnerable. He described it as God having pitched his fragile tent among humanity before drawing a stark comparison to the present-day suffering in Gaza. Pope Leo, elected in May following the death of Pope Francis, is known for a quieter and more diplomatic approach than his predecessor, and he has generally avoided overt political references in sermons. However, in recent weeks, he has repeatedly lamented conditions in Gaza and has stated that any lasting solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict must include the creation of a Palestinian state.
Il suo nome era Giovanni. Egli venne come testimone per dare testimonianza alla luce, perché tutti credessero.
During the Christmas Mass, the Pope broadened his message beyond Gaza, speaking about suffering across the globe. He lamented the condition of homeless people worldwide and the devastating impact of conflicts that continue to displace civilians and destroy communities.
Perché attraverso strade lunghe e dissetate hanno portato un annuncio lieto.
Later in the day, during the traditional Urbi et Orbi blessing delivered from the main balcony of St. Peter's Basilica before a crowd of nearly 26,000 faithful gathered in St. Peter's Square, Pope Leo expanded his appeal, calling for an end to wars across the world. He cited conflicts in Ukraine, Sudan, Mali, Myanmar, and parts of Southeast Asia, including Thailand and Cambodia, urging the international community to pursue peace over confrontation. As Christians around the world marked Christmas Day, the Pope's message stands as a reminder of those for whom the season brings little comfort. His first Christmas as leader of the Catholic Church seemed to set a clear tone, placing the suffering of civilians, the consequences of war, and the urgency of peace at the center of his global moral appeal.
And that sums it up on News Round. Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Koka. Merry Christmas.